Berserk.
Mate, I can't believe you like Evian that much. My tap water tastes way better.
No, it doesn't. See, that's the thing. Like
100%.
if it wasn't for this experience, I feel like I wouldn't care, and I would just be like, all water tastes the same.
No, I'm big on water. I'm big on water, but
okay.
Swedish tap water comes like from the glaciers and stuff. Like it's way better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a valid explanation, right? Like when you say your tap water, I think of my tap water, and that's no bueno. But when you're talking about Swedish tap water, I imagine where it may come from, and maybe it's top tier. I don't know.
Top tier, mate. Top tier. In fact, I remember looking at this a while ago. Apparently, so New York apparently has very clean water, and I was like, what? That's very surprising to me. Yeah, I was very surprised at that too. But a lot of the Scandinavian countries have very good water from like glaciers and stuff. So super good water. I love that we derailed this combo so hard in this game, but
it is a PvC, and nothing happens at this stage. Nothing. I mean, if you are brand new to StarCraft, then I think that there's stuff to talk about, but otherwise, this is pretty much as standard as it gets as far as the opening. You're gonna see 4 links being made here. The hatchery was blocked at the natural by this probe. Anything other than hatch block at the natural from the Protoss side these days is very rare. So if it hadn't happened, we'd talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. And Stargate is going to be the tech of choice for ShaDoWn here. Now, he's got this probe outside this natural, just checking out what's going down, just getting thwarted by a couple of lings. That is a good number to have by a Rattata here. 4, it's enough to sort out a pylon being made and also to fend off the probe and deal with the Adept later on. In fact, he's making another 2 more. That's for the Adept. So far, very standard. Oh, he's going to get 2 lings in, actually. That's quite a big deal.
Yeah, cute follow-ups from both already, right? Because there is a Stargate opening, probably wants to go for the Oracle, given the Stalker follow-up. So these 2 links are really nice for Rattata. Now, I don't know if he'll go for the Oracle anymore. I think that was the plan prior, but now it would have to do so in the face of these 2 links. And this Stalker was supposed to prevent scouting, right? Like, that's why he goes for the second Stalker instead of the Adept, and still goes for the Oracle. He tried to kill the Circling before giving the information away, so it's even a more delayed Oracle by an extra 5 seconds, right? So good opening for Rattata.
Yeah, certainly. A little bit of lost mining time and killing a probe as well. All these kind of things can offset you a little bit. One good thing that he did get done, though, he killed the first creep tumor with that Adept as soon as it was being put down. So that was at least something going his way. But yeah, it feels like the Zerg being in the know without having to sacrifice that much. Is he going to keep his Oracle there as well to deal with this Overlord? Okay. I mean, that's even more delay on that Oracle. What do you feel about this follow-up? 3 extra gates and a Twilight very quickly.
That is very ShaDoWn. ShaDoWn is one of those players that is creative and will have his own styles and will mix it up and kind of try to adapt. So this is probably some of that. He is one of the more flexible, I think, Protoss players, right? Like, that's why it's so tricky to play against him. And yeah, this is pretty cute. This is pretty cool. And the Oracle's just going to stay back. No additional units from the Stargate either. And that is actually pretty sweet because he is able to take this expansion with just the 1 Adept, leaves the Stalker at the other wall, which is great, right? Like, it's not going to get busted by anything anytime soon. And with a minimum amount of units, just decides to take a 3rd. So maybe he would have been aggressive with an unscouted Oracle. But with this one, he just says, you know what? You're probably going to have to defend. You're probably going to have to make spores. You're going to be ready for it. Instead, I'm just going to cut corners in the amount of units that I make and just expand faster.
Yeah, this Roach Warren from Rattata wasn't super late, but it started about 4:30, which normally you get it at 4 minutes kind of thing. And this Oracle's doing a good job of trying to keep these Adepts alive. Creep spread is spreading. The big thing for ShaDoWn is he wants to make sure that this doesn't really get spotted. And so far, he's doing a lot of things to make Rattata not really know what's going off behind it, which is very good by him. But this, losing any Adepts and revealing more Adepts, this is not what he wants.
Yeah, exactly. When you, as a Zerg player, you're looking for what units are being made. If it's Stalkers, you know it's Blink. If it's Adepts, it's probably Glaives. If it's Zealots, it's probably Charge. You know what I'm saying? It's, the only thing that doesn't reveal a tech oddly enough is usually a small number of sentries or just continuation into Void Rays or something like that, right? So, Rattata will know that this is Adepts, and the Roach Warren is late for, like you were saying, for a normal timing if there was a Glaive Adept normal timing, but given that it was a Stargate opening, it was perfectly reasonable. This is a crap load of Adepts though.
It's a lot of Adepts, and I was a bit worried that Vanya, or rather Rattata, was not going to scout it. I slipped up a little bit there with his nickname. He could actually kill that Stalker, but that is so many Adepts at the front door. Only 9 Roaches out so far.
Yeah, he can fight Queens and Roaches. Even going after one of the Queens that didn't have Transfuse available to it, maybe the one that has Transfuse is the better target. The Lynx are trying to be annoying, and forcing Warpins in the back is also pretty important. The Adepts are going to continue to shade in and continue to run away from the Roaches. There isn't enough Lynx now being made for the side of Rattata so that he can actually go on the pursuit and chase, right? A lot of his Lynx are on the other side of the map, and that means 34 workers have fallen. ShaDoWn knows that this is enough economical damage, and he is happy just to recall a good job from the Evian drinking French.
Really good job. 34 drones from an attack like that. I mean, it was a bit of a crazy follow-up, but he made it look super damn good. And that late Roach Warren that we kind of talked about a little bit, also, it was a pretty fast lair by Rattata. Like the whole thing, it felt like he was trying to cut a lot of corners. And he's behind a good 20-odd workers. And now ShaDoWn can start getting out an army that's pretty good against the Roaches as well.
Yeah, that is one thing about playing against a kind of like the type of Protoss that ShaDoWn is, right? Where you don't know what they're gonna do. Like the lair seems like maybe a bad investment at this point. They're greedy, but if there is DTs, for example, like it ends up being fantastic, right? So it's a tiny bit of a gamble, and ShaDoWn was being pretty tricky, like saving a lot of Adepts before moving, hiding a lot of Adepts, like very a la Cest. Like Cest is the type of player that will like to do this type of move where he hides stuff, and it's very difficult to replicate. You really have to understand your race and you know what mind games you're playing and what information you're giving away.
You can still use the shield battery here, which he's actually doing on the Nexus, not using the shield battery overcharge either. ShaDoWn still with a significant lead, but from what was, you know, a good 30 workers ahead, now only a good 15. So these little engagements, skirmishes and whatever you buy, Rattata, definitely keeping him in it. It's just ShaDoWn's in all worlds of good right now. I didn't really know how to finish that sentence, but look at this army. He's just posturing so aggressively.
Yeah, and it's fine for him to do that. The creep spread is not great from the side of Rattata, so even if he gets on top of this army, you know, there's a chance that ShaDoWn can go away, and if there's not a million Lynx, it's going to be very difficult to get surrounded as well. These Adepts run into the natural to no avail, but still ShaDoWn with a very dominant position in this map.
Certainly is. Rattata's at 66 drones, which back in the olden days, that was as far as he ever went, and he just buckled out a ton of units. And right now, he's going to be advancing a bit more ahead, but ShaDoWn pretty damn safely on 4 bases at this point in time. I think tech-wise, the fact that he's adding on just a lot more gateways, he's on double forge here as well. There's some ambitious morphins there with those banelings, but he has to be a little bit careful because there is one thing that pure Stalker Zealot can lose to, and it's a lot of Roach Ravager Bane, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Banelings are not particularly great against the Stalkers, but in big numbers with the Ravagers and the Lynx, it can be pretty insane. And of course, the Banelings connecting onto a clump of anything is good. So yeah, we'll see what happens here. It's definitely a little bit risky for ShaDoWn, but if he can kite the Circlings enough, then the rest of the units for Rattata are gonna have a little bit of a difficult time. Oh, and that's a really nice flank actually. And Blink is gonna have to be utilized, and there is a ramp here that the Lynx have to go through. I think that Rattata maybe could have committed there a little bit longer, Ben.
I think so too. Maybe he was just like, all right, let's not stand under these oracles because they're piling out quite a bit of damage. And you know, if we look at the resources lost tab, very even between the two, and that worker count way better for Rattata than it once was. There's a few big upgrades that aren't coming online yet, such as charge and +1 armor, but hold that thought, that is a lot of Zerglings coming in, and look at that. So many Stalkers being warped in as well. ShaDoWn's crazy.
He is absolutely bananas, and yeah, this warping was really important. The shield batteries weren't done, so if Rattata was to exploit the timing, it would have been right there and then. And he lets it pass. ShaDoWn expanding like a madman, and that's gonna make it so that he can continue to reinforce with tons of gateway units, playing a very fast-paced a la Zerg game. And we've seen this from Protoss more and more. Skillus has been doing a lot of this as well. Hero, etc. are playing all with very basic unit styles. This is something that Nina actually loved to do in the past for many years, but now it's kind of becoming the norm for the Protoss race post Void Ray meta.
Oh, these Banelings, this is right before +2 finish, so they could have done even more damage. But look at them. This is what I wanted from both of them. They love to attack. They love to hit their time windows and just be crazy and aggressive. The best defense is a good offense, and these two both live by that logic.
Absolutely. I think of Rattata as maybe sometimes like the faster player, but here he's getting out multitasked by ShaDoWn, who is pushing everywhere. The creep spread is still not great. Rattata attempting at Baneling Rambais, and it's not working out onto that Nexus at the moment. Kind of splitting his Baneling Rambais as well. A lot of the time it's just okay to go in the same location so that you at least are doing damage over time and maybe look to pick off the Nexus if you're failing to pick off probes or structures that are adjacent to it. So Rattata spreading himself thin, but does catch a few stalkers in the middle while the Zealots are going to town in his main. The shield battery overcharge here, Ben, is it enough?
I don't know. It's staying alive for way longer than it should be. The Banelings kind of getting some decent connections on these Stalkers now. I mean, the supplies are ridiculously close, but pure Stalker needs Zealots. Does get big wraparound on these Ravagers, though.
Yeah, those Zealots came out of nowhere. I love to just follow the observer camera because you don't see the warping sometimes. It's just like a movie where the Zealots show up out of nowhere and start doing their thing, but it's not going to be enough at least to save that base. So great job from Rattata. That's an equalizer that he very much needed after losing a little bit of economy and just time and attention back at home to those Zealots. So
yeah,
ShaDoWn's still with 4 bases though. Yeah, I mean, ShaDoWn's still fine, right?
To some extent, yeah. Like, absolutely. He's on 1-1 upgrades. Like, his double forge only pumped out 1-1, but I think that's also because the game got crazy. Okay, now he starts off +2/+2. He will start getting some Archons in the mix, and that's quite a few chunky boys. Probably needed those a little bit of a time ago, but I feel that this kind of chaotic situation is probably... I don't know who it's better for, man. I just feel that Rattata's got a bit of tempo on his way now after taking out a base.
For sure. I think that this is the best position that Rattata has been in for sure. It's just that I felt like ShaDoWn had been ahead before. And now we're at least seeing that tech transition from ShaDoWn, whereas before he was literally just playing with Stalkers and Zealots for the longest, for something like 12 minutes straight, right? So it's good to see these Archons being added. The Lynx are not going to be as much of a threat with these Archons in the mix. But Roachans and Ravagers still as deadly as ever and mostly unaccounted for. So ShaDoWn has to find an answer for those.
I like how ShaDoWn's slowing this game down a little bit, though. Like, he's got the Oracles that are poking and dealing a little bit of damage, but then he's also like, you know what? I'm just going to have, like, Archons in defense at this base. I'm going to take the 5th safely, and for the first time, he's not, like, super out on the map and in his opponent's face. He's actually, just taking a breath a little bit.
Yeah, and I think he kind of has to. He identified his position really well, so this is the mark of a good player, too, just to know when to reel back in. And he has done a good enough job with the creep containing that, Rattata doesn't feel too comfortable moving out on the other side of the map either, on the other half. So this is still anyone's game, Benny.
Yeah, I as time goes by, though, that +2/+2, even though, Zerg units don't really care too much about armor grades, they definitely help against the Zerglings, which it feels like Rattata has been trying to utilize a lot in this game. And ShaDoWn does reveal where his Warp Prism is quite nicely. These Banelings... Oh, okay, that could have been a lot worse for ShaDoWn, but nice reactions by him.
Yeah, great reactions. However, the Banelings do serve as a scout, so they're going to see that there's nothing here. The army's not in position, as now the army gets pulled over from the other side, where Banelings are going to enter the other mineral line to kill 22 probes total, as the Ravagers are going to hold this ramp, and that's not a good position for the Protoss player here to go down a ramp when Corrosive Bile is kind of zoning you out. So he's going to take a lot of losses just to basically begin to take the engagement. Now out in the open, a little bit better for the Protoss player. The Zerg's gonna have to retreat. Those Ravagers are extremely expensive and very fragile units, so Rattatas actually have to pay a heavy toll to retreat, but good damage as well. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who that favored. No idea.
So I think it was good for Rattata until he stayed and fought with just the Ravagers, because I was like, mate, you got to look at those boys like glass cannons right now, because you're getting flanked by Archons and everything. And I think if he ran back and saved all those, super good position. And I mean, he did take out a good 20-odd probes. In fact, look at that workers killed. 61 versus 60. This is absolutely what we knew was going to happen, and that's why we love it.
Yeah, it's absolutely a massacre on either side, and it's been great so far. Like you said, though, there's not a lot of buffers still for those Ravagers. That is one of the problems for Rattata, but a lot of Banelings. However, they're gonna get bruised right away, and actually a blink forward. Insane, but it works out. Most of the Banelings have detonated already, many of them onto Stalkers, and Stalkers take very little damage from Banelings. Rattata has been doing a fantastic job with his Baneling Rambice, but again, not really bruising the Nexus enough to capitalize on like further Baneling Rambice later on. He does take down a Pylon, which is going to weaken the defense there, and 6 probes as well. But ShaDoWn has been doing a good job of remaking those 5 at a time coming up, and so he is keeping up in the economic regard just fine.
Rattata has no chill, man. Like, he has no chill whatsoever. He's like, late game? I don't know about it. And he's just like, go, go, go. Those biles are hitting his own Zerglings, which definitely sucks. There's a shield battery overcharge in the back there. Rattata has to be careful, man. Like, his RB isn't that great. Like, look how many Archons are in the mix. He has to play this with a lot more Roaches and Ravagers and stop fighting it head on, I feel.
Yeah, and again, I mean, ShaDoWn knows what fights he can take, and he is going to capitalize. He blinks forward very confidently here, because, like, normally it's very scary to blink forward. There's going to be a little bit of a Ling Rambai here, but there is a Zealot Warping available. A few Archons are going to be recalled, what I thought to the main, but maybe there was only a recall available at the natural, where they overlap with a lot of those Zealots that were already warped in to answer these Lings, as they are going to try to escape.
I feel like Rattata hasn't clued into the fact that these Zealots are quite decently upgraded at 2-2. Like, they are trading way better against these Lings than what they would normally, because normally you have like +2 against +2, and it's kind of a slaughter. But now these Zealots are actually surviving for a lot longer while dealing with the Zerglings very comfortably. And you just see a lot more Zerglings on the way, and while they're good and the Banelings are good as well, I do feel that this Roach number is just way too low.
Yeah, and ShaDoWn is pretty much equalized in terms of supply. The army value is actually 1 in his favor, pretty negligible, but it looks pretty nasty. That's a lot of Archons, so the Zerglings may as well not be there. Banelings are really going to struggle to find effectiveness here unless the Zealots basically run head-on into them, right? Because Archons and Stalkers, both incredible units against Banelings. So I almost want for ShaDoWn to reinforce with the Zealots but not expose them, and that's exactly what we see here. Most or many of the Zealots are trapped behind, and only a couple in the front. So really cool layering here from ShaDoWn.
This certainly is, and these Archons are getting on top of these Ravagers now, and the Biles, maybe, great warping as well over there. ShaDoWn's just making this super hard for Rattata. Oh my goodness, Baneling hits. Keeping up with these two is hard.
It is very hard. I mean, they are masters of the mid-game and of their craft, and ShaDoWn is obviously a very unconventional player with billions of Archons as his main army composition. This is too many Ravagers now, and they do output a lot of DPS, so even though they are glass cannons, this is plenty, I think, to break down ShaDoWn. ShaDoWn really has to rely on this Zealot Rambice now as the brunt of his attack, because otherwise that was an excellent trade. Ends up being an excellent trade for Rattata. A base does go down, however.
Base does go down, and ShaDoWn's expanding behind this. He's playing this, yeah, you said it, very Zerg-esque, no cancel on that Nexus. They are all about brutalizing one another. In fact, 74 drones killed versus 84 probes killed. That is nuts.
Absolutely nuts. And now the Ravagers are on the offense here. They have to be a little bit careful. If those Lings get taken down, this is still a pretty fragile army, but Rattata feels pretty good. There is a lot of Ravagers, and, you know, they output enough DPS that if you don't have the numbers to break them, to tilt that balance, they're going to trade extremely effectively, extremely fast. This is, I think, enough. ShaDoWn thinks that it is. He's going to go on the chase now. Biles are going to be used to zone out and actually connect onto 3 or 4 of those units, and that is a ton of damage that he gets to do for free. And down that ramp, that was maybe would have been better to Bile at, like, on the ramp itself, in the ramp itself, but he Biles as he is retreating. Maybe was some cooldown or something. Still allows for the retreat, but somehow, some way, ShaDoWn, after killing that extra base, Benny is ahead in terms of supply. It seems like he's just gathering a little bit more in the way of economy or something. I press income and it's pretty even, but yeah, somehow he pulled ahead.
I'm just so worried for Rattata here. Like, look at that gas bank. That to me just screams, mate, so many Ravagers. They did so well for you in the fight before. So well. They're kind of, you know, armor upgrades don't work against the Biles, and they don't really work that well against the Roaches or Ravagers either. Ooh. And these Lings are just not able to get that much done anymore. And every little trade like this, it's just good for ShaDoWn.
Yeah, I mean, that blink was really good too, to kind of zone off the links, and that is just details that are gonna end up mattering a lot. And yeah, the zealots, just 3 zealots are ravaging this mineral line, aided by their warp prism. Now on the other side, as some army should get pulled to deal with those zealots, the main army of ShaDoWn is gonna pounce onto this base and take it down, and that is one of the last remaining bases for Rattata. So it's going to be a difficult recovery now for the Zerg player. Finally, we have a player that has a very clear lead in this game, and it is difficult to imagine that he's going to let go of it. But Rattata, another no cancel.
Yeah, and again, 88 workers killed versus 91. These guys are like the 2 boxers that don't have their hands up, you know, like just absolutely slobber-knockering one another. And it's yeah, it started to get to the point where I feel that ShaDoWn just had a better grasp of how to deal with what Rattata was doing, and Rattata he had 1 gear and he stayed in it.
Yeah, and this has been such a cool approach from ShaDoWn, and it's been like he's doubled down on this composition so many times. Like, I don't think that I've seen a Protoss be as comfortable just making this many Archons over and over and over again, right? Like, it's like Archons are a great unit and they're a great catch-all unit, but this is a lot of Archons as the main core of his army non-stop, basically, right? It's not a unit that's very flashy, not a unit that you can micro a whole lot. It is just a unit that you have to trust, that you have the right position and take the right fights. Yeah, and there's, you know, I guess you can kind of dodge piles, but that's about it, right?
I mean, as long as you're moving, you're not dealing damage, which, you know, this kind of army normally doesn't work super damn well, but it's doing wonders here. And the Ling Run buys just weren't able to keep it in it. And GG, ShaDoWn with, I don't want to call it comfortable, because it wasn't, right? Like, none of it was comfortable, but if I think about how well he opened up in that game, like that opening where he killed 34 drones and then he stayed alive, I think we've got to give a lot of credit to Rattata for making a game out of that, because by all intents and purposes, I don't think it should have been one.
Yeah, and I think at some point he did grab the lead as well in the game, and we took note of it. Like, if he didn't lose so many Ravagers on that retreat in the middle of the map, if he didn't turn around to take that fight and had just kept running, like you said, there was a good opportunity there for Rattata to conserve his lead and you know, finish it off. But it's gonna be ShaDoWn with a very cool style that takes game number 1, and I am pretty excited for game number 2, Benny.
Me too. When you have like that kind of thing happen, it's always like, okay, what do we got next? So we're gonna have, I think from Rattata we're gonna have very similar a thing, because I feel that that's just been him, like right from the start of his career. Like, he gets to something where he wants to hit you as hard as possible, and then it just doesn't stop. And it is scary to go up against that, because you know it's going to be like as strong as it can be. But you saw ShaDoWn, he was like, okay, right, double forge, get these upgrades going, like, okay. And then you saw the switch flick where he's like, all right, get control a little bit, have some Archons at this base, have an Archon at this base, you know, and he slowed down the game a lot, and it felt like Rattata just kept on going and it wasn't working anymore. And it was that for me, that just being a little bit cerebral, like true Professor X style in the game, and just make your opponent do what you wanted him to do and you changed it up. I liked that a lot from him.
Yeah, and I feel like also like the Archons are particularly good against like a lot of the units that were being made on the side of Rattata, and ShaDoWn kept it simple in that regard, right? Like, he thought, okay, I already have the answer that I want, I don't need to transition into like, say, Disruptors or Colossus or any tech switch. So he was also kind of outputting the maximum amount of units that he could, because he was comfortable with his tech and he didn't need to invest into further or you know, parallel techs to answer what Rattata was doing. So that was interesting, because you were talking earlier about how Rattata, for example, used to really thrive in the Hydra environments and the Hydra metas. And I feel like Hydras, for example, are very effective against Archons. So maybe sprinkling some of those in, even though it's gonna stall you, because like I mentioned, you have to invest into the technology itself, might have been worth it in that game. But it's so difficult, because he always felt like he was behind, except for that at that one point, right, where he wasn't able to retreat.
Yeah, and it's so scary, because you're like, I can just imagine like Scarlet and Lambo in my room right now, like, Hydras are a trap. They're always a trap. Like, you make Hydras, and then it's like, they don't have to make the Archons. They just keep the High Templars there, and then they've countered you, and it's like, oh, god damn it, you're maybe a bit right, but yeah, Archons absolutely have weaknesses. It just felt like Rattata played into their strengths as opposed to their weaknesses. Anyhow, getting into it on Hardwire. Top right here, Blue Zerg. It's currently 0-1. It is Rattata.
And in the bottom left-hand side, it's its opponent, ShaDoWn, for Berserk. And yeah, I would generally agree that Hydras are usually not a great idea. I just think that when you're going up against 15 Archons, it's, it starts getting to the point where it's like, if they start going for Storm and Templars and stop morphing Archons, then maybe, but you're probably going to take a comfortable fight against the initial army. Yeah,
I mean, you're totally right. There's many answers to Archons. Like the very obvious one, you get some Broodlords out, and those Archons are not so not so great. But if you're against a guy like Rattata, I think you can make these choices like ShaDoWn did, where it's just like, no, I'm just going to keep making Archons, because it's like you're not really going to be able to counter these, and it's just nice moves by him, honestly. And against another Zerg that's maybe not as crazy or reckless, you can't do those kind of moves. But against Rattata, I think you can. But we'll see what happens here, because I'm almost like tunnel visioned on this Rattata that I have in my mind, and I hope this game he can switch it up a bit, because he did play really well to get back into that game. Like, he absolutely did. And we were looking at so many Protoss buildings here, there, and everywhere that had their shield depleted, were like orange on health because of how many Baneling run-bys and Zergling run-bys we're going on. It's just sometimes you need to kind of see the big picture, not just the little skirmishes as well.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Just stylistically, these players are, like playing a tug of war game, and whoever lets go first is gonna have to fight against momentum too. So it's very difficult to find avenues to transition when your opponent is aggressive and you want to be aggressive, and it's that tug of war, really. And it's very difficult to escape it. So,
I mean, it's an unfair fight between these two, isn't it? Because one of them's got Evian water, the other one don't.
Yeah, that's pretty big, I would say.
I can't believe you're a fan.
It's huge. It's amazing. Wait, do you have Evian in Sweden, or is it just
mate, I've had loads of that. Like, and honestly, Evian water or like Fiji, I can't tell the difference.
Really?
Yeah, I've had like tap water.
But wait, why is there Evian water in Sweden if tap water is just better?
Mate, I didn't just like say, hey, I'm in Sweden forever and always. I'm never going to go anywhere else. I've had
No, my question was, but that's why I asked directly. Is there Evian water in Sweden?
There must be, yeah.
Okay. So you haven't seen it? Yeah, because I mean, they would probably not have a great business there.
I'm a bit of a hermit, but there's been I think one thing that the last time that I saw Evian being mentioned was like some actress said that she needed Evian water at work because she washes her face with that and nothing else. There was something very diva-y.
Who said that? Wait, who said that?
I don't know. It was one of these big divas, And ever since, I kind of looked at Evian a bit badly, but it isn't even their fault, Like, it's totally that actress. But so yeah, when you started bringing up like, oh, Evian, it's amazing. I'm like, oh my god, another
Evian.
One. Yeah.
I mean, even the name, right? But hey, like I didn't bring Evian to the broadcast today. It was ShaDoWn.
Yeah, but he didn't talk about it for 20 minutes.
Nah, he drank it, which is even worse.
If he started washing his face with it and stuff, that's when I would draw the line.
Imagine. Yeah, imagine right now that he starts splashing his face with water without standing up. We know where that came from.
Yeah, dude, he gets this little, what are those things called? Like handkerchief out, a fancy handkerchief, and dabs the Evian a little bit. It's like, oh man, tough game there. Tough game.
That would be amazing. All right, well, once again, he used his first Oracle to secure the third, but he has gone for 3 Oracle opening, a little bit more common of an opening in this matchup. And he's utilizing them just to clear creep. At this point in time, I mean, Zergs are just so freaking good at this level against Oracles that you just have to kind of resign yourself to that. If you're going to find a fight, it's probably going to be against a couple of queens. But for the most part, you are just looking to control creep and force defense out of the Zerg.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice that ShaDoWn's so willing to switch it up, because this is what looks like it could be a very similar opening When you see the Adepts, you see an Oracle and stuff, but then it's completely different behind it, right? We do see that Rattata is going for that early +1 melee again, and he's killed a few probes switching over to the other base and what have you, but so far, it's just been a much better game for Rattata, where he didn't get totally thrown off by these, bunch of Adepts randomly out on the map.
Yeah, most def. There is going to be that road speed coming up. Aspire now this time around, Benny. So also Rattata is going to be mixing it up. This is a little bit of a longer map. Also a very narrow map. So, Muta are going to be looking for maybe a little bit of a surprise. And they're going to find inherent value in just being able to potentially clear these oracles out of the map, right? And regain kind of map control away from these guys. The oracles are going to dive a little bit and find just 2 workers. Not the biggest deal in the world, especially 6 minutes in.
They were the most careful oracles of all time, right? Like I was expecting them to be a bit more like juking and jiving, but they were like tea sippers, man, with their little pinkies out, like just poking from afar and what have you. But ShaDoWn's very good at just getting a good supply out, and also being kind of on the map and aggressive with an army at this point. He's scary.
Yeah, and this is what he's supposed to be right now. It's just, feign aggression, basically. Be a little bit scary out on the map, kind of puff up his chest and tell his opponent, hey, I'm here to play. And if we look at the production tab, it worked, right? There's a lot of units in production for Rattata where he maybe would rather be droning up his 4th a little bit faster. But if he can punish this army, it'll be all worth it. As, ShaDoWn has no business being out on the map other than trying to force units out at this point. And it's already Rattata that's ready for it. I think he will get the punish.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a big punish. Big gas. Absolutely sank there. And Rattata, mate, he's doing what you thought he would, isn't he? This is just a lot of units, except he's going to have Mutas in the fray, and now he's 60 supply ahead. Just way better game for him.
Yeah, and it's like, whoa, you were taking a 4th? You're a greedy boy. I mean, he had already scouted, I think, the 4th even, so he just knows that he can cross the map. There shouldn't be too many more units waiting here for him, and the Muta can probably just head straight to the main. I don't think that they need to partake, but even if they join the army, I wouldn't hate it just because it looks like maybe Rattata can end right here, right now. I mean, that was definitely a little bit of an overextension for ShaDoWn. Hard to blame him because it did accomplish what he was looking for, but maybe overstayed a little bit too long, or didn't want to spend the whole set of force fields to just make sure that he has an escape and ends up getting surrounded. This one's just done. Muta do go in the main, and ShaDoWn, I mean, I'm just gonna look at his camera until he reacts to the Muta, shakes his head, something of the sorts.
You're looking for it, because I mean, when he sees that, I don't have money to warp in anymore, it's like, where'd all my probes go? And then you check all the bases, or you look at your supply first, and it's like...
It's taking a while, though.
It's taking a while. I mean, these Mutas...
I mean, this game's mega over, right?
Mate, they're doing a tour to France now in the freaking Protoss base of ShaDoWn.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Right. There we go. Wow.
He fought until he had 15 probes left, which is commendable.
It's Valiant.
Was at 71. Yeah, Valiant indeed. 15 probes left, and it wasn't dealt with. The attack wasn't dealt with yet, and it never, there wasn't any reinforcement stalkers or anything to do with the Muta, really. So, yeah, that was just a rough one. Just getting caught out in the middle of the map, and then, just being too spread as far as, like, trying to expand, trying to take a 4th, and not being ready for the Muta as well. So, 3 things compounding there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about all the things that went so different that game, because from going from that first game that was very close and back and forthy to then that was just like, that was Rattata, the raging bull unleashed, right? Like he just didn't stop once he started, which is kind of how you expect it. But if I was ShaDoWn's coach, I'd be like, okay, whatever kind of tricks you have, because that first game was a little bit tricky, a little bit sneaky, and that worked out really well. And then you can make the game your own. Because, yeah, you talked about it, how Rattata is a bit of a faster player than ShaDoWn. Even though ShaDoWn was out multitasking him in game 1, that's because he played it smart and he got to get to that stage. So I think ShaDoWn just has to avoid just letting Rattata build up and get going, because that's what he does. That's what he loves. So as soon as you put him in a game like that, in a situation, he's just going to go absolutely crazy and unleash. Blackburn will be map 3. I think this is definitely a map where Protoss can maybe mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, and it's one of the more defensive maps as well. So, like as much as both of these players can lean on the aggressive side of things and on the tricky side of things, I think ShaDoWn is the player that's more likely to kind of sit back and chill for a bit, right? Like as he was kind of showing he wanted to do last game. Difficult to attack on this map. That said, Rattata is also the type of player that could just go for the gold a little bit faster, like maybe even gold first, right? And try to hold and do some magic with that. So we'll see what happens. It's gonna be a fun game, a fun map to end this series on. But yeah, I'm completely with you on the previous game, Benny. I feel like I kind of liked the idea from ShaDoWn, right? Like to move out. But I also think the way that you were thinking about it, it's like Rattata did exactly what you would expect him to do. Like he already had a crap load of units. So he isn't the type of player that's going to be droning up like a madman necessarily, right? Like he might just be looking for an opportunity to pounce anyway, and then you kind of just offer that on a silver platter to some degree. So gotta be a little bit more careful.
I was kind of just thinking to myself, I really want to see a cannon rush. I'm not sure if it's happening yet, because it looks like it could be just a hatch block. But anyhow, spawning over in the bottom right, as at Blue Zerg on Blackburn, it is Rattata.
And in the bottom left-hand side, as the red Protoss player, it is ShaDoWn. Or is it ShaDoWn? ShaDoWn?
I always thought it was ShaDoWn, but then people started being like, no, it's ShaDoWn. And I'm like, what?
Why?
I don't know. I think they asked him, and he was like, this is what my name should be. And it's like, ShaDoWn. As if you should have a say, making your own name and stuff. But no. So I think it's ShaDoWn. But...
Based on what we think. I mean, like I read, the only word that I can make out in his name is down. You
can't make out own?
Pronounce it. Yeah, I guess you could say ShaDoWn. Yeah, I didn't see that. Wow.
Well, you could also say ShaDoWn.
ShaDoWn.
Yeah, that one's obviously the least cool though.
Yeah.
Let's just go with ShaDoWn.
ShaDoWn.
Now you're just confusing me. Now I'm going to start saying random things, but I was kind of hoping that we see one of those cool cannon rush jobbies where you get like immortals out and stuff, because if I was thinking anything that would probably throw off a player like Rattata, it could be something like that, and I'd love to see how he adapts. That being said, to do those kind of rushes, you have to be very adept at them. Like, it's not just something you can just whip out and be crazy good with it immediately, I guess. But I'm also, I like the fact that ShaDoWn's just doing what he does so far, just being like, all right, I'm gonna expand, because historically, which race has liked this map more, actually?
Between these two?
Yeah, I feel it's fairly close, right?
Yeah, it's difficult, right? Because if you're like a player like Cyril, you probably like the late game enough that you're willing to split the map, and then this map is pretty decent for you. But if you don't like playing against like split map scenarios, and if you are an aggressive player, it is very difficult to attack and to be aggressive on this map. So there are brands of Zergs, I think, that would thrive on this map a little bit more than others.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. Depends on the Zerg as to whether the Protoss is going to enjoy their life or not. Because, yeah, playing on Blackburn against Cyril absolutely could be one of the scariest things of all time, just because it's like, it is a defensive map. How do you get away with some of the cheekier stuff? And also there's a gold base for a Zerg, which it's one of the more susceptible golds, I guess. It's not like a Pride of Altaris, because you can be on the other side and what have you. But a Void Ray being the unit of choice here for ShaDoWn. Yeah, how do you feel about this one? Because he's obviously avoided the Stalker. Totally different build for him.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of a classic retro Void Ray here, so it's pretty nice. It's gonna keep you safe, and it's gonna be able to kill an Overlord. So that's pretty much what it does. And then your two adepts are gonna allow with the Void Ray to take an expansion, and that's about it. I mean, it's just as normal as it gets going into the Oracle to follow. And yeah, pre-patch, this was just kind of every Protoss.
Yeah, this was the build. And going for the Oracle second as well. I always like the Oracle, especially on a map like this. I feel that once you get behind the bases, especially between the natural and the third, it starts to get annoying, because then it's like you can't really hide anything from the Protoss anymore either.
This adept's actually not super properly tucked in. There's going to be surface area for 4 links to still attack it, but with the Void Ray, the expansion will be defended. Still, an extra unit needs to be made for ShaDoWn. He's going to make actually an additional 2 adepts, because he still needs to wall off and block his natural expansion as well.
Okay, the Oracle.
Wow, really quick morph there.
That was very quick by Rattata, saving the health or the life of one of those dudes, which definitely helps out in the long run, because you don't want to be taking any unnecessary damage. And so kind of look at the Oracle as like, hey, if you take damage from just one of those bad boys, it's kind of unnecessary. It should be able to get avoided, but nice moves like that, they will be. And this creep spread so far kind of goes fairly uncontested, which when that bad boy starts spreading, it's like trying to cut the head off a Hydra. It just gets harder the more they have.
Absolutely. I used to live with Hydra, actually. Never did try to...
Never tried to cut off his head.
I did not, no. He was a wonderful person.
Actually, he's always nice and smiley. I wouldn't know who
he is, yeah.
I lived with another Hydra that maybe I did want to cut off his head at some point.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I've heard some stories about that one.
I think he wanted to cut off my head more than I his.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too, yeah.
Yeah, but still, these things happen, you know. All right. What's happening this game? ShaDoWn did throw down quite a few sentries, which the earlier you make them, the more energy they have later on, which is cool. He's throwing down an Immortal and stuff, getting +1 on the way as well. Probe count looks very healthy for him as well, and he's done a good job of scouting, hasn't he? Like the Void Rays being kind of at the top of the map, the Oracle on the south part. Just a good job.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. At the same time, Rattata, out of all 3 games, this has been his best creep spread so far, so he is transitioning nicely as well into the mid game. And ShaDoWn is gonna scout this gold base and try to apply some pressure with his units from behind, so that's kind of nice too.
I feel like I've seen this story once before with this army moving out, but
and I didn't like the ending.
Yeah, I didn't like the ending for ShaDoWn, no, but this position, if he can get that Immortal shooting, which I think he can, nice. This is good.
Yeah, really good. So this hatchery is going to have to be cancelled. There is a long way that you have to run around in order to punish this. So going to be a lot safer this time around for ShaDoWn, and also more commitment, more units, and he moves out before taking his fort. So yeah, generally speaking, a little bit more committed and on a much safer position that is not all creeped up as well. So it ends up working out much better this time around. Little poke, and yeah, that's a great equalizer for ShaDoWn, who should be comfortable moving into the later stages now.
Looks like Rattata is a big fan of that spy attack if he's left to his own device where he doesn't take too much damage. Oh, that's one usage of all those sentries that you made earlier. Like he gets the 4th base, then he's like, I will scout everything that you ever loved and did. And he does get to see that spire. And honestly, with the amount of money that ShaDoWn has available, I love the fact that he's throwing down that Templar Archives at this point as well. And oh, that could have been nasty if he got in there.
Yeah, starting Phoenix production as well. He's just gonna make 1 Phoenix at a time, not even chrono boosting it. Don't know. Oh, and there's gonna be a little bit of surround here in the middle of the map as Rattata tries to get rid of this army. He is going to successfully be able to do so by the looks of it, and he really doesn't just care at all about the Void Ray and the Oracle outfitting damage from the air. Still, ShaDoWn manages to turn things around with a couple of war pins with that air support that we were talking about. These 2 links have killed way too many probes in the main, but fair enough, as ShaDoWn had to pay attention elsewhere.
Those 2 lings definitely did a good job, and ShaDoWn is starting to produce Phoenix for those mutas that haven't started being made yet, but with that kind of gas bank that Rattata has, I dare say it won't be long, although that's a lot of roaches that can turn into a lot of Biley boys very soon, and that would actually be very good against the army composition that ShaDoWn's going for, unless he gets a lot more charge lots on the field, which with that charge finishing up soon should be the case.
Yeah, ratio-wise, just looking at the amount of minerals and gas that he has, Ravagers seem to be a very sensible choice, right? Because you know, you already invested into the Roach, which is 75 minerals and 25 gas, and Ravagers are the opposite. So you can definitely use that 3-to-1 ratio in your favor, as a few Roaches are gonna make their way into the natural base of ShaDoWn.
ShaDoWn fighting on strongly here. Getting lift ups on these Ravagers is solid. I mean, these Archons, 2 of them very unhealthy here, but even at supplies, it should be quite good for ShaDoWn. With this amount of Roaches, these Archons aren't getting done what they want to get done.
Yeah, at the same time, there's no real shield batteries here to fall back to, so he has to still be a little bit careful. There is a ton of Immortals that have been outputting so much damage onto these Roaches And I think that Rattata has to reevaluate like his unit composition a little bit here. Those Immortals are just putting in so much work. I'm gonna click them around and tell you just how much. 11 kills on one, 12 on the other, and 0 kills on the other. It must have just spawned or something.
Must have. An Immortal without a kill. Jeez
That makes
Louise.
no sense.
By the way, ShaDoWn has been supply blocked for a little bit of time here. Like that 148 has been the top, but he did get a 4th base behind all this. I think Rattata looks like he's going into that heavy Zergling Baneling style again, which I don't hate in this position because he's piling on the pressure, right? But he has to be careful against this kind of army mix. Nice snipe on that Archon.
That was really nice indeed. The Banelings are gonna waddle into this corner base. Gonna get 15 workers in a quick splash. And now at the ramp, the Zealots are gonna charge on forward, but this means commitment. You cannot disengage with those Zealots, so the Phoenix are trying to do what they can. Those are pretty expensive units. The Ravagers, excellent force field there, dropping 3 units or so. But another Baneling or 2 are going to kill an extra bunch of workers to bring tally up to 24 in recent history. It's a bloody game still, Ben.
It really is. Like, Rattata, he's just, he gets to this and he just goes, right? And he saw that his opponent made Phoenix, so he was like, you know what? I got that Spire, but I'm not going to make anything from it. ShaDoWn's actually adding a few Void Rays here, and I don't hate that, because they've done quite well so far in this game and the last for him, especially against these roaches and run-bys. The Archon account is kind of growing again. Immortals up to 9 very soon with this extra one popping out. Whew, it's a lot.
That is quite a bit. However, they do not fare well against Zerglings, and there's only 1, now 2 Archons, so ShaDoWn has to be pretty careful. Now adding shield batteries as well. Okay, 3 more Archons in the back there. They really need to partake in this fight at the front, and he's gonna reveal them now. He might have just been hiding them. That's how smart this man is. And now he's gonna partake, but the Banelings are gonna run into the top base again, killing 19 extra workers. Corruptors were made, 4 of them, so, you know, the Phoenixes are not gonna have much of a say anymore, nor is the Void Ray, but now you have, you know, I guess just now 2 remaining Corruptors. That was just awkward, to be honest. Any air contesting is just weird right now.
I feel like ShaDoWn would benefit so much from just some like gateway walls, just to stop all these Baneling run-bys from dealing so much damage, because this is like one of the more difficult maps to do that on, but everyone has just been so good against him.
Yeah, single force field left over for ShaDoWn, but I don't know why he's moving out right now. Yeah, sure, his army is complex and pretty, but at the same time, he is so far down in supply. Maybe he just doesn't anticipate how far ahead in supply Rattata was, but this army is not scaling from Rattata, so every unit that he could have warped in would have been in his favor. Instead, he's going to lose his entire army, and with that, all the momentum that he was building up for himself and probably the game, as Rattata's just going to move into the top left-hand side base. We see a little bit of a shake of the head, and the Evian, he didn't hydrate in between, and it's not going to work out this time, Benny. This is Rattata's game to lose.
It's really showing, man. It's really showing. But Rattata, he's been sipping on Fiji all day, and maybe a little bit of Monster as well, because he's feeling good and hydrated and energetic. And look at that. That's a hell of a lot of Zerg just busting on through. GG, Rattata. From being 0-1 down, even he shakes his head after he wins.